everyone, George Soto here, along with my co-host Justin Dorfman, and you're tuning into the GTM Pack podcast. Today, we're joined by my good friend Matt. We've known each other for several years. Matt Heinz, who's the president of Heinz Marketing. I always tell the story how when I was looking at startup sales resources and books, I came across your initial book many years ago. I don't want to date it, but how are you?
I'm good. Let's not promote that book because it's old enough now. I don't even know what it has in it, right? It's just whatever it promoted. But yeah, good to see you and Justin as well. Just very excited to be here and look forward to the conversation.
Totally. Just real quick, could you just kind of give folks a little bit intro on your background and
Mhm.
kind of what you've been up to and what you do for marketing within, the tech space?
Yeah, thank you. So Matt Heinz founded Heinz Marketing about 15 years ago. Honestly, George, this has all been a giant mistake. I was a journalism and political science major in school. Don't have any entrepreneurial background in my family, but 15 years ago decided to give it a shot. So have a small B2B consulting business. We help companies with complex sales cycles create more predictable outcomes in their pipeline, in their close business, in their customer journeys. And along the way, I've just been able to have a lot of fun, right? Do things like this. I talk and type for a living. I'm very fortunate. It's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, Matt, I've also been following your content for a while. I think you appeared on our top influencers list a couple of times when I was at Tracker. So it's great to finally meet you. I'm curious, with your purview, you mentioned that you work with a bunch of B2B tech companies. You have a great perspective on the market. Obviously, we're in a really uncertain time. There's a lot of layoffs going on in tech. So first of all, I wanted to get your take. Have you ever seen such uncertainty in your career? And specifically with your work with B2B tech sales and marketing teams, how are you seeing these teams adapt and really do more with less in the current environment?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I am definitely old enough to have seen a couple of these rounds. I remember distinctly 1999, the first sort of dot-com bubble. And I don't think we've got enough time to some of the stories. The best stories are from the companies right before the downturn, right? The crazy dumb things they were doing that clearly we didn't learn and we just do them again. So like 1999 was one. 2008 was the other, and that's when you do the math, do the machine 15 years ago. It was November 2008 when I started Heinz Marketing. Like the market had just tanked, right? My wife is pregnant with our first child, so like, yeah, let's start a business. The good news is, like, I'm a consultant. Like, all you really need is a laptop and a bus pass to start. But all of my initial clients were facing that recession, and so it was everything from do more with less to new silent people as part of the buying committee. My very first client was a company selling into HR, and their typical buyer was a director of HR. Well, now, and that was the decision maker. Well, in that recession, a lot of companies had that decision had to go to the CFO, and the HR manager does not know how to speak CFO language typically. So, but the CFO was a small enough deal. The CFO wouldn't get on the phone with us. So we had to teach the head of HR how to have that pitch conversation internally. We got to the point where we had our sales reps, our client sales reps were practicing. They were doing role playing of the presentation, where the HR manager was playing the role of herself, and the rep was playing the role of the CFO, and like present to me, I'll give you my objections, etc. So it's an example of the same thing we're seeing now. Right? Like, companies still have needs, but instead of approving 4 or 5 nice to haves, they're approving 1 or 2 need to haves. So your message has to be tighter. We're doing this ourselves. Like, I mean, for years we've offered sort of go-to-market assessment and roadmaps. It's been a way of sort of getting in and providing some immediate value. No one's spending money on assessments right now, right? But we've taken that core value and repackaged it and rebuilt it. And now we're offering something we call the win rate accelerator. Right. And in this market, win rate accelerator, that's something that's needed. So those are 2 examples of, like, with the buying journey, with the buying committee, with how you position the value of what you're doing. Those kind of pivots, they should be happening all the time, right? Including during the sugar rush days when we're on the straightaway. But when you hit that recession curve, it's even more important to be more focused.
So you're saying there's hope for us. You know, I've only been in the game for about 22 years or so.
Yeah.
But so I did see the '08 recession at
Mhm.
98, 99. I was still in high school,
Yeah.
or I just finished
Yeah.
high school in
Thank you for
99.
that.
You know,
Yeah, no,
um,
yeah, dude, this too shall pass. You know, I mean, markets are cyclical. And you know, there are great companies that emerge from times like this. There are great companies that prove to their employees and to their customers that they're worth sticking with in times like this. So, you know, it's really hard. I mean, look, I'm not a finance guy, so it's hard for me to sort of understand when that's going to happen, but it will happen. It always happens. It will happen again. And in the meantime, just, focus on what you can control, provide better, consistent value to the people in front of you, and you'll get through it.
awesome. Well, thank you for those words of wisdom. You know, I know a lot of folks out there are in need of it, and I know you've been helping a lot of folks. You find gigs and stuff like that. Speaking of trends, you know, you've seen a lot of them over the years. Any particular trends right now that are really standing out in B2B marketing? Anything that you're encouraging your clients to really deploy? You mentioned kind of these pivots, but anything specific that folks listening can go, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the idea that you have, I'm going to take sales and marketing alignment as an example, right? It's something that we've been talking about forever, and I will stop talking about it when we actually fix it, and we're not quite there yet. But there's the problem, then there's the strategy to solve it, and then there's the playbook to implement it. And too many companies kind of stop there. But if a playbook isn't thought out, if it's not rolled out correctly, if it's not reviewed after initial implementation and fixed, because I guarantee you your best laid plans playbook is going to have some things that are broken. This is not about sort of set it and forget it. This isn't about automating a system in a technology tool. Like, you have to think about how all these like jazz hands conversations around sales and marketing alignment, how that lands on a Tuesday morning. Like, who's doing what? And if you're in a complex sales situation, you have this interplay, not just across what hopefully are integrated marketing channels, but across sales and marketing. There has to be an embrace of the complexity of doing that. But you can create order out of that chaos, consistency and predictability and scalability in that work by doing the work, by creating the process, by implementing the process, by thinking through the change management and culture management components of it. You change what someone does during the day, and they may react negatively. But if you look at that negative reaction from the function of fear of my job, fear of my livelihood, fear of being seen as someone who doesn't know what they're doing because you just changed what's important to me, you changed my workflow. Like, we are humans doing this. And so a playbook alone that you hand to someone doesn't address that fear and anxiety. So every one of our clients, whether we're just doing a strategy development project or whether we're actually getting into building and implementing playbooks, you have to address the culture and the human side of this. And that is something we have to constantly remind people that is not a switch it's not a flip of a switch. That's not a 30-minute all hands meeting. You have to manage through that. Super important.
Yeah, talking about sales and marketing alignment, I saw a post that you put out there on LinkedIn a couple weeks back around measurement of marketing. And specifically, I think you said that we need a new way of measuring marketing's impact on sales and revenue. How are you seeing marketing teams measuring their impact on sales and revenue today? And in your opinion, what's wrong with the way folks are doing it? And how should they be measuring their impact?
Well, I see companies sort of ironically do two things at the opposite end of the spectrum, and they're both short-sighted. One is just saying, like, well, how many leads did you generate, right? Or how many leads did we get from email? Or how many leads did we get from this channel, right? Like, what do you mean leads? Like, we've got a 12-month sales cycle, and there's 14 people involved in the buying committee. And if you're in a finite market, they may know about you well before they actually need you. So what do you even mean by leads, right? And so there's so this transactional expectation in a complex sales system is already not really working. And then we try to bubble it all together and say, well, what was marketing's influence on this deal? What was the marketing, how much was marketing sourced? Again, we're trying to simplify a process that is inherently very messy and very complicated. Instead, I recommend companies break down the jobs to be done. What are the various jobs to be done by marketing? At the beginning, it's not just creating awareness of your business, it's creating awareness there's a problem to be solved. Do your prospects know that the problem exists? Have you quantified the problem? If you challenge their status quo and then get a commitment to change, and then they're interested in talking to you, one of the first jobs to be done is get a commitment to do something different. Then a job to be done is to get them to consider you. Then a job to be done is to get them to actually buy from you. So for a sales enablement job is to rally and build consensus from that internal buying committee. Obviously, the sales organization is going to be a huge part of that, but there's a ton that the marketing team can do there as well. So if you think about marketing contribution to revenue, and we're not even talking about customer stuff yet, that's a whole other story. But again, jobs to be done allows you to say, in some cases, if the job to be done is awareness of the problem, you're not measuring that with MQLs. You're not measuring that with leads or with pipeline. It's a different set of metrics based on a different set of objectives.
Speaking of objectives and sort of quantified viewpoints on different, jobs to be done, organizations right now are really trying to figure out, how do I allocate budgets, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what do I do? Because we still have to generate prospects and these sort of things, right? Pipeline, et cetera. And I know a lot of folks are having some trouble. What advice would you give leaders out there around allocating, budget, especially in this time?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's a couple things I think about there. One is, a lot of people will start with like, how do we get more leads and get more demand? And that may sound good, but I would encourage you to start at the bottom of the funnel, not the top. Where are those deals that are close to closing, where you've done all the legwork? There's just a little bit of discomfort of making a commitment, more so now than there might have been a year and a half ago during the sugar rush days, right? So how do you solve that? Like that, those deals at the bottom are going to be faster, easier, quote unquote, than starting from scratch somewhere, and then move your way up, and you may have to pivot how you talk about something. For example, this isn't a go-to-market assessment. This is a win rate accelerator. Okay, now you have my attention, and let's talk about what the process is to get there, right? So I think that's one thing. The other is, you got to go into a little of, forgive the analogy, but like a little more wartime budget management. And what that means is, you don't start the year and say, here's my goals for the year, and here's what I'm going to allocate, and we'll see what works, and we'll revisit the budget next year. No. We're going to look right now at what's working. We're going to consider those jobs to be done. And if something isn't cutting it, we're going to cut it. However, if the bank has a sale on dollar bills for the rest of the day today, and every dollar bill costs 90 cents, budget is irrelevant. How much capital can I get to go buy as many dollars as I can? My point is, if you see a program that is working, have an expectation and understanding with your CFO in advance that says, if we see this is working, and I think I can deliver more of this with the same economics, I'm going to come ask for more money, right? But I'm also going to turn off the stuff that isn't working, or isn't working at the scale, at the economics, or at the pace that we need it to. It's not about credit. It's not being right or wrong. This is not about marketing failed. It's saying, as an organization, we need to be more agile in how we deploy funds to be more likely to hit our number right now.
Yeah. Shifting away a little bit from sales and marketing, I've seen an initiative that you've been promoting on LinkedIn for a couple months now called Great People Available Now. It's a great initiative. I'd love, for you to tell us a little bit about it, the impact you've seen from it so far, and maybe how folks can get involved and support that initiative.
Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, we started it kind of mid last summer as we saw kind of layoffs starting to pick up steam a little bit. And it started, it was just like a lot of things. It started very organically. It was just, our clients had some people, they come roles they were still hiring for, and the volume of resumes for roles was going up. And so we said, like, well, what if we could curate a list of great people by function that had been vouched for by someone in our network, someone I know, whatever. And that's how it started. And unfortunately, we've had over 2,500 people on that list at any given time. Fortunately, a couple things. One, as we record this in April, the trend line on layoffs is going down. Like, it peaked in January and it's gone down every month since then. Both the companies doing layoffs as well as the people being laid off. The data I have is mostly tech, but that's still a good proxy. And also, you know, we go through the list and sort of go verify if someone's gotten a new job, because they don't always follow up. And over 600 people who have been on that list have found new jobs, which is great. And there's, you know, that's, you know, heavily balanced on people that have been on it since last summer and fall. Obviously it's not just the list doing that, right? But I think every little bit counts, you know. And I think, you know, what is community? What is a group of LinkedIn connections if you can't use that to people's advantage, if you can't use your networking community to help people? You know, did it help some people get a few more interviews and phone calls? I hope so. Did it give people a little bit of hope that someone else out there was looking out for them? I hope so. You know, so that still exists. I would say it's a Google Doc, right? And it's you know, we don't share it publicly because there's a lot of personal email addresses on it. But if you want to be on the list, I got an intake form. You can just email me, matt@heinzmarketing.com. If you're a hiring manager, especially, there's still some really great people on that list, mostly go-to-market roles, sales, marketing, customer success, product teams. Look, it's just the right thing to do, man. I mean, I think it's, you know, I can sit here and sort of talk about, well, there might be some down level, people remember it and bring us business. It's just the right thing to do. And I don't know, you know, when times get tough, I think that's where you pivot.
Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to chat. I know, you know, you got a hard stop here at the top of the hour, but very much appreciated. If folks want to connect with you, maybe learn more about your services, or just follow you. I know you have your podcast, you have a lot of content that you put on social. What are the best channels to reach you?
For me specifically, I'm on LinkedIn. Would love to connect with folks there. I do post a lot up there, everything from written stuff to videos to some recurring weekly little shows we do. I'm just Matt@HeinzMarketing.com. Would welcome anyone who wants to connect directly. And, you know, I've got 15 years of content, research, best practice guides, digital copies of our books, all up at HeinzMarketing.com. So check that out too.
Awesome. Well, Matt, have a wonderful, wonderful day, and hope to see you again in person. It's been a couple years since we saw each other actually in person.
No, it's been a minute. I will tell you though, like it's you know, both getting out more actively in person as well as just having interactions like this. It's fuel, man. So I know we'll see you out there shortly.
Amen. Awesome. Well, have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon.
You too. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Matt.